What's up, everybody? Cooking Ninja here, and today we will be making nachos. I like nachos, especially in the summer, because I have nothing to do, and they really taste good and they're easy. So let's get in the video. The first thing you will need are tortilla chips. You need to get tortilla chips. The second thing you'll need is a pan. Doesn't matter what type of pan, but you want to put the tortilla chips on the pan. So it looks like this, because we are going to be putting them in the oven, okay? Now, the third thing you will need is cheese. You need grated cheese, sharp cheddar. The sharp cheddar is the best type of cheese for nachos. And it needs to be grated. You need to have a grated sharp cheddar cheese. I'll show you how to grate it in a second. Now, the fourth thing you'll need is tomatoes. You need chopped tomatoes. It can't be too big, can't be too small. It needs to be like medium. I'll show you how to chop them in a second. Now, the fifth thing that we'll need is olives, okay? You need cut olives. I got canned cut olives, but you can cut olives yourself. And the last thing we are going to use in our nachos are beef. Ground beef. Make sure it's ground beef, and I'll show you how to cook that in a second. But we're going to be putting all that together and be putting in an oven to make our nachos. Okay, so let's start off with the tomato. You want to get a serrated knife to cut the tomato, because if you have a flat knife, then it won't cut the tomato. And you want to cut the tomato in half and then into little lines. So you can see how there's like multiple layers. You want to have multiple layers. Then once you have the long, you want to take the knife and cut sideways to make the small little chunks, which is what we are going to be putting on top of the nachos. Okay, so now we have our chopped tomatoes, perfect size. The next thing we will be doing is grating the cheese. So to grate cheese, you need to get one grater. Make sure you don't cut your fingers because it really hurts when you cut your finger. Then get the cheese, hold it by the edge, the end where you're not gonna shred it. Okay, now now the little tongs right here, the sharp part, make sure it's facing down. You don't wanna cut upward, you wanna cut downward. So then we're just gonna shred some cheese. Can get really messy sometimes. Okay, so now we have enough cheese. Okay, so we're gonna put the cheese and tomato off to the side. Okay, now we have our olives. So I'm just gonna open up the can of olives, and I'm gonna drain it. Okay, now the olives can has been drained. Okay, now I'm just gonna clean up some of this cheese. Okay, so now we're gonna start on the beef. So preheat the oven to 450, and then when it gets to 450, then we will put all the toppings on the nachos and put in the oven for 10 to 15 minutes. Make sure you do not put it in the oven. Make sure it's not in the oven more than 15 minutes, because the cheese will burn and then it will taste horrible. So make sure you don't do that. So back to the beef. Put the beef in a pan, okay, and turn it on high, okay, and get a spatula. Doesn't matter what type of spatula, but you want to chop the beef. If it's like mine's in cubes, so I want to get it till it's just like crumbly, like you'd see like taco meat as. Okay, so now it's chopped up a bit. We're just gonna have to wait till it starts to cook. Clean up my area a bit. Okay, and I'll come back when we're ready to put the nachos in the oven and when the beef's done cooking. But before we do that, make sure when you cook the beef, you just keep stirring it. It will turn brown, and you want to make sure there's no red left in the meat. You just want to keep flipping it over, stirring it around, making sure it's not too chunky or anything. So I'll come back when everything's done. Okay guys, we're back. The oven's ready to put the nachos inside. The beef's almost done. The one thing that you guys, like I said, you need to do is you need to keep stirring it around because you don't want the beef to burn, stick on the pan, because that's really bad. And make sure there's no pink left. Make sure it's all nice and brown. That's one thing you really want to do, because if it's pink, it can get you sick, and you do not want to get sick. Okay, so our beef's done. Put that off right there. Okay, so our beef is done, and now we're gonna put the nachos in the oven. So take your nachos that's on the pan. Okay, you wanna put cheese all over. Put as much cheese as you want. Just make sure the cheese covers the entire plate of nachos. Gotta make sure the cheese covers the entire plate of nachos. Okay? Because if it doesn't, then you won't get that really cheesy, good flavor. Okay, so now the cheese is covering the entire nachos. Then you want to add your tomato. Just put your tomato around it. You can add as much of this stuff as you want. You can add onions too, but I don't like onions, so I'm not going to put onions on mine. Okay, then after you have added the tomatoes, you can place your olives. Okay, so now I have everything on the nachos. I'm gonna put it in the oven. Remember, 10 to 15 minutes, but no longer than that. Okay, so I put it at 9:35, so we will take it out at 9:50. Okay, now we have our beef. Our beef is done. When the nachos come out of the oven, then we'll put our beef on top and they'll be finished. So I'll come back when the nachos are done. Okay, everybody, we're back. My nachos only took 8 minutes to finish cooking. So if you want to try 8 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes, it's up to you. Depends how much you like your cheese melted or your chips cooked, whatever. So here's what it looks like. Okay, so now since that's done and it's still heated up, we're gonna add our meat on top of it. Okay, so now we have our meat on top of it. And that's it. Our nachos are now done. So if you have any questions or what you want me to do next in the next video, comment down below. And I'm thinking about baking a cake, like from scratch. So if this video gets up to 20 likes, then I'll make a cake from scratch. So see you later, guys.